Hello and welcome. My name is Veer and I am with Sarovar Chandra. Sarovar is Director of Product Management at PharmEasy. He has 8 years of experience building internet products. First 4 years were as a software developer, and since then he has worked on the product front. Hi Sarovar.
Hi Veer, thanks for having me over.
Great to have you. So Sarovar, tell us a little bit more about PharmEasy.
So PharmEasy is an online pharmacy. We started with the concept of pharmacy made easy, hence PharmEasy. However, today we are foraying into a lot more things than just medicines. We provide online diagnostic tests, we do healthcare FMCG products, we do teleconsultations. So I think the long-term vision of the company is to be your one-stop healthcare provider. But yes, our core business is selling medicines online. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about your role.
I take care of all the consumer platforms at PharmEasy. There's a bunch. These are the frontier with the customer and how we get our transactions into the system. Mm-hmm. I would talk about the role in terms of how a product manager and what the role is a little bit. So I think the product management as a job is the glue between, say, engineering, analytics, business, and somebody who's like tying all of these together into one single probably like pipeline or a roadmap for everybody to focus on. Mm-hmm. That's kind of what the product management role is, and I feel like I have maybe simplified it far too much, but that's roughly what it is, and yeah, that's my role. We take care of everything consumer at PharmEasy.
That sounds very interesting. So, as a product manager, for PharmEasy is an app primarily. Also, it has a mobile website as well. For a business like that, where it's a digital first business, the role of product management is crucial and it's critical to it, right? Because the product is the shop. And in that role, it also means that you have to align with the business, you have to understand the business matrix. So could you tell us that, what are your KRAs? What are the key metrics that you track?
The metrics that I track primarily have to do with the health of our systems, and when I say health of our systems, I mean our Android app, our iOS app, website, mobile website, and we are looking at this stuff on a daily basis about how many people are coming onto the app, how many people are transacting, how many people search, just making sure it's business as usual. That's the baseline. Something we want to ensure is not touched and doesn't fluctuate too much. Keeps pointing upwards in all of these cases. That's the kind of metrics we're looking at on a daily basis. In addition to this, we are also iterating really quickly. We are releasing new features, we are changing designs, we're changing experiences, we are trying to drive consumers to do certain things. And we are, that's the second set of matrices that we monitor, the performance of what we do.
Okay.
My KRAs are primarily tied to business goals and business objectives. Where we want to be as a business, who we want to be as a business, and what are the steps or what are the objectives we need to achieve. So if our business goal is to grow 4x, my KRAs are directly correlated to that in terms of what we can do on the product front. So that's roughly, I would say, what my KRA is. It ties directly into the business goals, and so does the product roadmap. They are not independent of each other, and we are not following some different philosophy or different goals that need to be accomplished.
Got it. Yeah, that's very important, right? The alignment to business goals is direct.
Absolutely.
So you are the product manager, your goals are aligned to the business goals, your KRAs are aligned to those, but who owns the business metrics in this business? Because there's no sales team.
Yes, it is not. There's no sales teams. We are a direct to consumer product. Nobody. So at PharmEasy, we happen to have a very phenomenal structure of how teams are structured. We have this concept of solver teams, where there is a product owner who's taking care of the digital shop, so to speak. There is a business owner who's looking at transactional and behavioral transactional trends.
Sure.
There is an analytics owner, and then there's an engineering owner. The four people, we come together to form the core of a solver team. There's of course a lot more stakeholders. There's a lot more people who form this team, and the four of us kind of come together and kind of own different parts of the problem. So there is, say, an engineering solution that needs to be architected. There's an owner for that. There is our product roadmap that we need to accomplish, and what are the things that need to happen in order to do that. There's a business owner who's looking at business metrics also.
Sure.
As a product owner, we look at almost a holistic view of everything. Having said that, there are people way smarter than me who are looking into this on a daily basis.
I'm sure. Yeah. And how does marketing fit into this? How do you work well with marketing and product management? And
see, at least in the kind of companies where I have worked at, and especially true of PharmEasy, marketing is constantly trying to widen the top of the funnel. The number of people who, say, are made aware of PharmEasy, or are downloading PharmEasy, or installing, visiting our website. So their goals are to like kind of increase that number.
sure.
With whatever means that they do, like digital means of marketing or offline, more traditional models. Once those users come onto the platform, it is essentially up to the product and also the solver team to kind of take these users and make them transact, or drive them to the journey that we want. And there are things that we do in order to facilitate that, make it easier, make it simpler, nudge the user in the right direction. And once we are able to drive the user to the bottom of the funnel, we drive insights back to marketing teams about what marketing channels work, how well they work, are we getting the right kind of audience for us? Are we acquiring the right kind of user or not? And where to really focus. So they're trying to widen the top of the funnel, and we are driving a lot of insights back to them about where to focus their energy and money. Right. So that's typically how it ties in.
Got it. Also in digital businesses, there are teams which take care of traffic acquisition, cost of installation. So the CAC, right? And driving more installs. And then there are retention teams. So how is your org structured in that sense?
So there is the marketing team, then there is a retention team.
Okay.
There is a dedicated retention team whose job is to make sure the customers don't churn out of the platform, whose job is to make sure people keep coming back, people are aware of PharmEasy, the brand recall is there, and do whatever it takes to ensure the customer sticks with us.
Right.
Sometimes it is just a function of time when the user does, when customers do come back. Sometimes it takes, there are other things that we may have messed up.
Sure.
If there is a potential service defect in what we have done, and then we try to recognize these things. We try to reach out to the customer and give them incentive to kind of come back to us. So that's the retention KRA. Once the user comes back to the platform, again, it kind of transitions back to the product to make sure that the user is able to go through the journey again.
Right.
Of transacting, at least when it comes to the case of PharmEasy.
Sure.
It could be, but with respect to product management, it need not necessarily be a transactional funnel. It could be something as simple as Medium and somebody reading an article, spending say 7 minutes on a page, actually going through the article, scrolling all the way down. But yes, there is a marketing team which is whose main goal is to acquire the customer for the first time.
Got it.
And then there is a retention team whose main goal is to make sure the customers keep coming back.
And transacting.
And transact, and we are at the middle of it, making sure we build a product where it is easy, simple to
Got it. Got it. And how do you accomplish that? Is your product philosophy like a all-in-one single vendor solution, or is it like best of breed solutions? Which philosophy do you follow?
To be honest, building good products or building great funnels or building great experiences is not like it's not a one-time thing. You have to kind of iterate over it a lot. You have to build and do this multiple times to kind of hit the sweet spot, so to speak. And we use a lot of tools that kind of help us identify what we are doing right, what we are doing wrong, where we really need to improve. So we have a lot of deep instrumentation within all of our consumer products, where we get this insight from users, statistically collected data, heuristically collected data, and basis these numbers, these trends, we are evaluating the product over and over again. There are certain experiences within PharmEasy that have undergone multiple iterations, even in the last 6-7 months, and major iterations, because we did something which was a little better than what existed, but we weren't happy with it, and we did it again and again until we kind of get to a point where we are able to drive the business KRAs.
Sure.
So we have a lot of products.
So it's a best of breed then? Could we say that?
Absolutely. I would say that we would never want to. The quality of what a third-party product does for us is way better or way more important than our inclination to have or maintain only the one platform.
Got it.
We would never shy of. We'd never shy ourselves of wanting to put like as many products as needed that help us build better products ourselves.
So can you give us a sense of the toolkit that you have?
Okay, we use Fabric and Firebase crash reporting for basic application health. We use Aptimize for A/B testing. We use UXCam and AppC for session recording and heuristic analysis. And then we have a statistical and behavioral analysis tool also, which gives us statistical trends and funnels about how people are engaging with the app. That kind of like forms the major suite of what we do, and there is an engagement product also with which we accomplish push notifications, journey maps and things like that. So we do have a bunch of tools in place.
And a lot of these are to do with analytics, and with the best of breed philosophy, do you face a challenge where the data is spread across these tools, and then you have the need to kind of have unification of this? Do you have a data lake? So can you give us some idea into this?
Yeah, it is a challenge, no doubt. And it takes a while to get it right. As the organization scales, the needs change from quarter to quarter, year to year. And today, yes, we are in a position where there is an immense need for us to be able to stitch this data together. So we are working on those fronts. There are people who have experience who are helping us out, like capture data from these sources, bring it together, stitch it all together so that we get one holistic view of a particular customer's journey or the business growth, so to speak. It is absolutely a challenge maintaining multiple fragments, and today there is a need in PharmEasy to kind of want to stitch all this data together so that we can drive better insights and analyze what we need to do better. It wasn't always the case. But yes, it's something. Yes, we are working on. No holds barred.
And analytics is a broad area, and there are various types of analytics that are there. So can you give us a sense of some of these tools, so that we can learn from people who are listening to this also can learn from the types of tools that you use. Your view on analytics overall that you are currently undergoing.
Okay, so they help us solve different parts of the problem.
Okay.
So a statistical analysis tool would give us insights about what are the trends. So perhaps maybe in the context of Zomato, a statistical analysis tool could give you visibility into how how many people are accessing a particular restaurant details page.
Sure.
What kind of cuisines are people browsing? What cities people are searching for what cuisines? A statistical trend tool can drive a lot of insights.
Got it.
Perhaps the number of people looking for desserts or ice cream in summers in Delhi is way higher than in Delhi in the months of winters.
Right.
It's an obvious assessment to kind of make. But it is a hypothesis.
Right.
Who knows whether it's true? But a statistical analysis tool can validate it for you with numbers.
Got it.
Then these kind of tools also help us do funnel analysis.
Okay.
Map a user's journey and say ki we expect the user to come to this page, click here, then move on to this page, click here, make a payment, and then finally reach somewhere. How many people are actually initiating the journey and going through with it? How many people drop off and don't continue on to the next step? It's a baseline health metric.
Got it.
However, it tells you, at least as a product manager, on what to focus on. If we see a funnel of 5 steps, where the biggest drop is between step 2 and 3, that's the obvious problem that you want to put on your roadmap to solve.
Right.
So that's the kind of analysis statistical tools do for us.
Got it.
Heuristic analysis tools kind of help us identify potentially what exactly is wrong or invalidate a hypothesis.
Example of that would be?
So, for example, on a payments screen, typically in e-commerce, even before a customer is taken into a payments experience, at least in the context of India, there is a 2-factor authentication.
That's right.
You have to put in your OTP and your
Yes.
So there is a big drop off there.
Yeah.
There is a lot of moving parts. But even before that, say you're on Flipkart or PharmEasy, and then you have to select a payment method.
Right.
A PTM or credit card or net banking or MobiKwik wallet. And when you are in that zone, the drop off is very high, right? Because at that time, a transaction becomes real to a user. You are kind of making a decision to pay. When it's a drop, it's a problem. It's something that we want to solve. But when we go into the heuristic analysis of, say, that particular feature or that module or that journey, we see that there is really nothing that we are doing wrong. It is just a psychological barrier to continuing, right? So while statistics say it's a problem, it is not a problem that we may necessarily be able to solve on the product front. There are things that we can do, no doubt. But the problem is less on the product than perhaps on the user psyche or customer psyche about choosing payments. This is typically true of most e-commerce companies, where there is not just a drop on payments, there is a drop on payment selection also. Where even before you are initiating a payment, customers, the purchase becomes real, the transaction becomes more perceptible. So that's the kind of...
Which tool would allow you to do this heuristics analysis?
We use AppSy and UXCam that
Okay.
help us track journeys and see what users
Got
do.
it.
We get click maps where users are clicking, heat maps, scroll maps, and of course user session recordings. So when we see user session recordings, we are able to kind of identify whether users are not able to make sense of what is on a screen, or users are actually just not wanting to engage.
Got it.
And in most cases, there are things that we can do to kind of optimize it, make it less, make it frictionless. But in not all scenarios that's necessary.
So these are the two types of analysis tools that you talked about.
These are the two major ones that we use. We also have A/B testing solutions in place, which kind of help us experiment faster. So when we hypothesize a solution, it is essentially that. It is some people brainstorming in a room, and it's my opinion
Yes.
vis-a-vis your opinion. And when we hypothesize, we build it out, and then we A/B it, which means we show the base, what exists, to a set of users, and then to another chunk of users, we show the new solution.
Right.
And then we measure the change in impact. Like, the solution was built keeping certain goals in mind. The user may click here, or may not click here, or may log in on this click. When we A/B it, the hypothesis becomes real. Either we end up validating it or invalidating it, and that gives us a lot more confidence of releasing features.
Right.
Whether it's something that we want, whether we should do or not. Until then, you're just shooting in the dark and hoping something sticks.
Got it. So it's an interesting flow. So you start with statistical analysis tools, then you look at heuristics analysis, and then then do A/B testing, and then maybe campaign management. Is that the flow that you're talking about?
That's roughly true. When we get to campaign management, by that time we have kind of optimized the journeys to a large extent, or that is an ongoing process. It's not really something that ever ends.
Right.
Having said that, the campaign management tools are typically for marketing and retention teams.
Right.
To kind of do outreach to customers.
That's right.
Speak to them.
Right.
In many ways, along different steps of their journey.
Right.
And kind of help them come back to the platform, or help them transact, make them aware, or just something that, like things that we want to say to the users but are not able to unless they're in the app. So then they use means like emails, SMSs, push notifications to kind of do outreach to the user.
Right.
In one sense, it is an independent track, but outreach doesn't work if we don't build great products. People will come, and then what? It's a means to an end, so to speak, and we want to continue that journey. We were able to bring somebody back, and now what? But yes, the product iteration is its own process, and so is outreach. But the better products and the more insights we can build on the product about what users are doing, why users are doing, where they're not working out, the marketing and retention teams can always do better outreach because they have more data or more visibility about consumer problems.
So when you talk about analytics and in the product management team really, taking the mandate and, working with it, that also means that the product manager has to have a certain type of skill set. Right. So let's talk a little bit more about that. What do you think is the skill set that a modern product manager, working on internet products ought to have?
I think you need to be sharp analytically. It's very important to have a grip on basic statistic principles at least, just so that you can identify what is right and what is wrong. Numbers don't always tell the truth until you kind of put them under a magnifying glass. Product manager ought to be able to do that. Kind of look at a trend and say, okay, even though this doesn't look great, it is within, say, reasonable bounds of what is acceptable. Not panic in that sense. So having a grip on basic statistic principles is very important. In internet products, I think product managers should be reasonably comfortable with technologies. They don't necessarily need to know how to build or architect great solutions, but it's good to know that they know what an API is.
Sure.
So I think that's another skill set. They need to have a very sharp analytical bent of mind. And I don't mean like when I interview product managers, I don't ask trick or puzzle questions, but we typically ask things the problems we face,
right,
and how we can optimize them and see if they are able to hit a note that we are thinking of or hit something that maybe we're not even thinking of. So that analytical bent of mind is very, very important.
So you're suggesting two courses, go on Coursera and learn statistics, and also get yourself familiar with technology, internet technologies. These are two essential.
I think so. I think UX, if not UI, but basic usability principles is very important for.
Okay, that's the third area you're talking about. Can you elaborate on that? What do you mean by usability? And of course, we know the meaning of it, but
right.
yeah.
So it's more building intuitive.
Got
solutions.
it. Got it.
Okay, let me think of an example. A door that pulls and pushes, right? It swings one way, and on one side there's a handle, which naturally means pull.
Right.
On the other side, instead of putting a handle, if you put a plate, that by default means somebody is going to push because they can't pull it.
That's a nice example.
It's a simple usability thing.
Yes.
If you put right things in the right place with the correct context, people intuitively understand how to use them.
Right.
And those are the kind of things that we want to, that at least product managers should be aware of. They are not very, they're not so crazy. They're not insane principles. They're very basic principles. I mean, there's a great book by Steve Krug called "Don't Make Me Think."
Right.
And it is essentially how to build products, or not even products. It's just how to build things which conform to basic usability guidelines.
Right.
In terms of color, arrangement, alignment, spacing, and those things really, really matter.
Don't make me think.
Don't make me think. Yeah.
While we were talking a little bit before, this recording, you mentioned that UX helps build trust. That was a very interesting point. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Okay. I feel like I can't remember where I read this example, but in the traditional modes of shopping or transactions, consumers have to take a significant amount of pain, get out of their house, take a car or public transport, get to a market, walk into a shop, engage with the shopkeeper. There's a lot that is going on.
Yes.
Before a transaction happens.
Yes.
So a consumer has already made like a significant chunk of effort.
Sure.
They're already in there.
Right.
It's now the shopkeeper's job to sell. With internet transactions and e-commerce, that doesn't exist. It's very easy for somebody to open up a browser, type PharmEasy, land there, and if they don't like what they see, they will leave for one of my competitors. And it's just, there is no barrier. The barrier to moving from shop A to shop B is a click.
Right.
And that means that you maybe have 5, 10, 15 seconds to grab attention and build trust that this is a place where I want to shop. And good UX, good UI builds trust. Of course, it lays out content in such a way that is easy on the eyes and users can absorb more.
Right.
So the things that you really want to talk about,
Right.
the things that you really want to put focus on, you can. The second thing that it does is, just off the bat, it gives users or at least consumers an idea that some care, some thought has gone into building this. You only have the 10 seconds to build that trust. Now, not having it, you lose the trust.
Right.
Having great UI, great UX means you are able to build the trust in the first 10 seconds. It is not necessarily true that you are a trustworthy company, but that is the first step in making, bringing somebody onto the platform. It is very difficult to do so otherwise. The barrier to moving from shop A to shop B is the smallest.
And also, it's also true the other way around, right? Like when you said that, okay, for the shopkeeper in a physical environment, he knows that the customer has come to the door, so he has passed a lot of intent filters already. He has taken the efforts to come. And if you talk about from the customer point of view, if he goes to the shop and the shop is shoddy and if it's not well put, maybe he will not trust the shop to buy from there. Similarly, if the app UX is not A class, probably he will doubt whether this the products that are being delivered, can I trust this shop with my money? Is that also
absolutely? If it doesn't look good, like trusting with money. Right. In this case, you're not only trusting with money, you're not trusting a person.
Right.
So in a physical store, like you're giving money to a shopkeeper. You can ask him things like कि warranty है कि नहीं, अगर कल वापस करूँगा तो लोगे कि नहीं, and you cannot do that. It's not that simple. You have to go browse for that information, return policy, shipping policy. You're not getting to see the physical product. It will come to you 5 days later. and you're transacting online. It's a digital mode of payment. People are already, in India, people are not very comfortable transacting online. And you have to break these barriers. And there are things that you can do to break these barriers. You can have a very transparent shipping policy, a transparent return policy. But if the consumers don't appreciate how you look, how you're laid out, how you are, the trust, the care that went into building something needs to shine through in what the product is and how it works. If you can't do that, I don't see very many internet products scaling or becoming big brands.
So that is where UX is
very critical. That first glance, the care, the thoughtfulness is very important to kind of communicate to the users that there is a team out there who cares enough to put this together in a certain way.
I'm reminded of on that thing that you said that the efforts are visible through the UX layer. I'm reminded of a quote by Steve Jobs. He said, people think that that UI is like an outer layer, but he says actually it's the inner layer which are surfaced just to the design. So it's your soul of the product that is visible to you through the UX.
The first impressions in online shopping are critical. There, like I said, there is nothing that prevents me from killing Uber and like opening Ola, right? There really isn't. It's a couple of taps of my thumb.
That's right. Yeah.
It's not like standing at a bus stop trying to hail a taxi like 15 years ago. It's just not there, which means the first impression has to be sharp.
Can you also talk a little bit about the product management process that you have at PharmEasy?
Okay, we are good planners, I would say. We try to plan very, very well with the entire product team, with their entire philosophy of what we are trying to instill. I feel like the better we plan, the better we execute, the more quality, stable products we build. Whenever we try to execute things which are unplanned or last minute projects or done with a certain degree of haste, they invariably overshoot deadlines or they become it's just something that don't get executed very well. So that's something that we try to instill in the entire product team. We try to plan better. The process itself of building something inherently is very iterative. Like one of the things that we try to do at PharmEasy is not reinvent the wheel. There are typically people before us who have solved the problems that we face.
Sure.
Very rarely, maybe like once or twice in a year or like on rare occasions we deal with unforeseen problems or problems that are unheard of. Maybe not even then. Almost always we are trying to solve like a unique how to put it. Very often we are trying to solve problems that other people have solved for, but we just have a unique version of it. And I feel like there are solutions out there that we can use with a reasonable degree of confidence that it works for someone else and it will work for us. But that's only a starting point. From that point on, we just kind of move on, evaluate it, improve it using the tools that we spoke about.
Okay.
Ship an A/B test, build the next version and the next one and the next one.
How often do you ship?
We are doing a 15-day release cycle. So every month we do 2 releases like clockwork. Okay. Yeah. So that ways we are very disciplined and we are able to like keep churning out new things. Not every release is a big feature release or a big design release, but we are always releasing every 15 days.
Every 15 days. And there's a product management sprint and there's an engineering management sprint.
Yeah, so we are laid out on the consumer platforms, we are laid out in a very streamlined manner, where once the product team is kind of closed out with the business requirements, product requirements, analytics requirements, they hand off things to design.
Okay.
Once design is done, there is a backend team that kind of takes it over, builds out all the core platform, and finally it goes to the front end teams. And each sprint is 15 days long. So by the time we ship a big feature, it can take up to 1.5 to 2 months. And we like to give ourselves that lead time because we know some things to be true. That is, when we plan better, we ship on time, we build stable things, and we build great products.
Haste makes waste.
Haste makes waste, yes.
Okay, so where does Sarovar go to keep himself updated?
I read a lot of hacker news daily. There was a time when hacker news was very tech driven, but today it's a great resource for anybody who's working. Like it's great professional stuff in information. I follow Silicon Valley Product Group. Product Hunt is a good place to kind of be looking for information. And yeah, I think over time my Google feed has also adapted.
Right.
So yeah, but yeah, that's roughly true. Yeah.
I think that's great. Any final words of wisdom that you would like to share with product managers?
Yeah, I think it is as product owners, product managers, it's very important to be able to focus on 2 or 3 problems, that biggest problems that you see in your product. Either it's a usability problem or a funnel drop off or whatever. Identify and keep focused on them until you have solved for them. My reckoning is for most of us, if you look around, you will find solutions to these problems. Like if you want to see a great search experience, you might want to look at Google or Amazon. If you want to see a great checkout experience, check out Amazon. If you want to check out great recommendation systems, Netflix and perhaps Spotify have great recommendation systems. And these companies are very transparent about how they do what they do, some of them at least. And you can always kind of like read about what they do and how they do it.
Right.
And start off there. Measure and kind of evolve products over time.
Right.
Don't spend too much time kind of like hypothesizing about what works. Build it and test it.
So iterate, you're saying, that's what.
Be iterative.
Got it.
Ship quickly. Yeah.
Great. So I think we had a very good chat today, Sarovar. So thanks for coming and sharing your thoughts.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's been fun. Thank you.